Hello friends, this is the video lecture for Essay 3, the conflict essay. For this essay, you'll be writing a conflict essay in which you identify the struggle between opposing forces and how it relates to the plot in the text A Second Bakery Attack by Haruki Murakami. There are different types of conflict, and we'll talk about those in just a second. But what you need to know about this essay is that the body of the essay should focus and develop 3 different conflicts found in the story, so 1 per body paragraph. Now, unlike the irony essay in which you could choose which ones to do, for this essay, you need to choose 3 different ones below. Now, there are 4 types of irony, so you're going to leave one of those out. It's up to you which one to leave out, but they do have to be different in the 3 body paragraphs. You should develop an argument for how the conflict might better help the reader understand the overall theme or the moral of the text. And remember, you can find all of the themes that are associated with the text when you look at the most important document of the entire class, the How to Write document. The possible themes for A Second Bakery Attack are marriage, fate, hunger, consumption, and persuasion. So make sure you refer back to those when you're thinking about which theme you want to go with. Then you need to conclude by evaluating the effectiveness of the conflict and what the reader can learn. All the materials used for the essay should be cited in MLA within the body of the essay, in the in-text citations, and on the works cited page. Here are the types of conflict. Remember, you have to choose 3 different ones below. You're going to discuss 1 per body paragraph. And you should put the conflicts in order of how they happen in the text. So the first one is person versus person. We are all familiar with person versus person. That is when 2 people have a conflict. Person versus person is an external conflict, meaning it happens outside the body, that involves a mental or physical struggle between 2 characters in the story. Another type of conflict is person versus self. That's an inside conflict, an internal conflict that involves the struggle between the character and his or her own conscience or self. So every time I ride by McDonald's, I have a person versus self conflict. Myself wants to stop and get some of those yummy smelling french fries, right? But my brain knows that that's not very good for my waistline. So that's a conflict that I have inside myself, okay? The next type of conflict is a person versus nature. This is also an external conflict that involves the struggle between the elements of nature that are beyond the character's control. Anything that has to do with weather, animals, time, things like that that are not that are out of a character's control. So for instance, when you're riding down the highway and a storm comes blustering in, right, you have a conflict with nature. The rain is not allowing you to get to work on time or something of that nature. All right, the last one, and probably the most hard to prove and understand, is the person versus society. Now, in this text, A Second Bakery Attack, this one might be easier to use. Person versus society is an external conflict that involves the struggle between a character and the rules or laws that govern the society in which the character lives. So in this story, they decide to, rob a store basically for food. Well, society says the rules and the laws that govern that society say that stealing is not okay, killing is not okay, but oftentimes a person can justify those actions within that conflict, and it becomes a conflict between that person and the society in which they live. So those are the 4 different types of conflict. You only have to choose 3 of them, but they do need to be, you can't use person versus person for every body paragraph. You need to choose 3 different ones. The topic for this essay is to analyze the short story A Second Bakery Attack by Haruki Murakami to determine the theme of the text through the conflicts, both external and internal, that the character faces throughout the text without summarizing the story. So here's your thesis stem. You should take care and copy this directly. The characters in the short story, A Second Bakery Attack by Haruki Murakami, face conflicts, both internal and external, that prove. So if you want to go ahead and copy and paste this onto your map, that would be a very good decision. Now, what follows the that proves statement is the theme, okay, and leads to or causes or however you want to word that, and then your universal outcome. Now remember, the universal outcome must be universal. It doesn't happen just to the characters in the story. This theme would cause this situation in anyone's life, okay? So make sure the thesis statement looks just like this, and that you have the theme here, and it leads to or causes or befalls or whatever happens, and then your universal outcome is at the end. Now you can get a good idea of what a thesis should look like by looking at my example, which you cannot copy or use. The characters in the short story, A Second Bakery Attack by Haruki Murakami, face conflicts, both internal and external, that prove when one is hungry, they often make bad choices. Now, here is there is the theme, and here is the universal outcome. This doesn't just happen to the characters in the story, but it happens to me too. It happens to everybody. Okay, so think about that as you're writing your thesis statement. Main goals and for the essay have not changed. They're the same. This essay must include at least 2 sources with correlating in-text citations and a works cited page. That is the author's biography in the introduction, and then the text that come in the 3 body paragraphs. Here is your introduction structure, which we'll go over briefly again in this video, and your paragraph structure, which can be found on the How to Write document page. Okay, I literally want you to follow this and write all of those things. All you have to do is fill in all of the blanks or ellipses. Okay, we'll go through that in just a second again. Back to this document. There are some reminders for essays. Please make sure that each paragraph is 8 to 10 meaningful sentences. You should not be using third person point of view. That means you cannot use the word I, me, you, your, we, us, or our. And please do not write with contractions. That's going to cost you about 5 points on your paper. So a good edit is a good thing to do. Make sure you're following the essay format. Make sure you are writing your essay for an educated, informed audience who is not in this class and may not be familiar with the terms or examples that you may use. You will need to summarize key ideas, define any terms that might not be familiar, and choose appropriate diction to help your reader understand your topic. Now, I've given you a little map at the bottom. I've put nature, self, and society here, but you can change all of these depending on what you want to use. This is not the map that you will turn in for credit. However, this does help you figure out which ones you might want to use later in your map. So let's go ahead and look at the How to Write document. We're going to look at this in tandem with the map that you are going to turn in for credit. I lost my other page. There we go. And let's move this here. Okay. So to begin, here are some possible themes for A Second Bakery Attack. Remember that you only choose one: marriage, fate, hunger, consumption, persuasion. After you have chosen one theme from above, find 3 examples from the text and write them in the boxes on your map. Now you want to look for the conflicts that have to do with persuasion if you're using this theme. Look for the conflicts for consumption or hunger, fate, marriage that would all point back to these themes. Don't put conflicts here that aren't going to point back to the theme that you chose. To write your thesis, think generally, what does hunger lead to, or what does marriage lead to or prove? If I choose hunger, I believe hunger causes people to make negative decisions they wouldn't normally make, right? So the general outcome should not pertain specifically to the text, just what the theme causes, leads to, or proves. I've gone over my working thesis. Remember, do not copy it. Now, here are my topic sentences and body paragraph structure for each paragraph. I want you to use this on your map as you're looking at your map and doing your map stuff, okay? So for conflict number 1, when you turn in your map, please label it what kind of conflict it is by going ahead and writing in your topic sentence, okay? So it says one conflict the characters face in the short story is a, let's just say you chose person versus person conflict. When, now describe the conflict in your own words, okay? You'll do this for paragraph 2 and both for paragraph 3. The example from the story comes from number 3, which is the text, sorry, quote. So you can literally copy and paste that here. You may have to take this down a notch. There we go. So you'll fill it in with the quote, again, that goes with your topic sentence. Then how is this an example of conflict? You literally should begin this section as number 4 suggests. Okay, this is an example of a person versus person conflict because. Now tell me why you think it is. Now in your paper you will have to then relate it to the theme in number 5, but you don't have to have that on your map. Okay, so everything on the map also comes from the how to write document. This should be pretty simple. All you have to do is copy and paste these things in and fill them in for your map. Okay, so moving on to then your outline. It's literally the same thing as your map. You're just adding in a little bit more. Okay, so I want to go over the introduction again briefly because we're having some issues there for essay 2 as I check them. So I want to go over this one more time. Where is, let's see. There we go. So literally for the introduction, you will begin by defining your theme. So whichever one you pick from up here, let's say you choose marriage. Marriage is. So I should see the definition in your own words of what marriage is as your first sentence, okay? So marriage is, you can just erase all of these lines. Marriage is the union between two people as declared by the law that they abide. Okay, then you can talk about marriage. Give me 1 or 2 more sentences here and then move on to the link. Okay, so now you're going to link the theme to the author and introduce the text. You can literally use these words as what I'm putting here. So the theme of marriage can be seen throughout many short stories. One in particular is a second bakery attack written by, I always have to look up how to write his name, Haruki Murakami. Okay, so that's all you have to do. Now you have to give the biography information on the author that ties to the theme of the text. So literally start this section like this. Murakami was experienced the effects of marriage when he. Now, go find a direct quote from his biography that relates to that And then your in-text citation, which is given to you again on this document, it should say the desk of Murakami, in quotations, in parentheses, with the period on the outside. Okay? Then start this section as so. Let's see. A second bakery attack is about a couple who. Now tell me what the story is about. And then you're going to do your thesis statement. Okay, now your thesis statement, again, it should be the exact same one from your map. You will literally copy and paste it onto your outline. Okay, then body paragraph 1. It's already listed for you here. Body paragraph 1. Literally copy and paste it to this document. Okay? Then fill it in. Okay? One conflict the characters face in the short story is a person versus self, or whatever you decide. Self conflict. When. Then finish the sentence. Background information. Literally start this in the story, comma, then tell me what happens. Okay? Then it says number 3 should start with in the text it states, comma, open up quotations, give me the quotations, and then Murakami goes in the in-text citation with a period on the outside. The period does not go in the inside. Number 4 says I should start by saying this is an example of person versus, and always spell out versus, self conflict because. Okay, then finish. Explain. Move away from the examples of the text. Now you should write about how and why the example is happening and what it is causing. Okay, why is this person in conflict with themselves? What does the person want? What does self want? Why is this a conflict? What is the effect of if the person chooses this thing or if the self chooses this thing? Go into all of that in detail. This should be 3 to 5 sentences. So make sure that you are using all of your time doing that. Okay? Number 5 says you should start by this section by saying this example also shows how, and then go back to your theme, marriage, in my case is what I chose, marriage leads to whatever you put in your thesis statement, put that in there, and then show how that example leads to. If I was using mine, I would show how the example, that because the 2 characters were hungry and they made a bad choice, and I would explain the bad choice that they made here when I connect the evidence from the text to the theme and the universal outcome. Then the conclusion, you guys, literally restate the topic sentence. I like to do this in a backwards kind of way, and I use the ... here. I put that first and then say, I say something like, because the characters, whatever they did, this proves there is a person versus self conflict in the text. Okay? Bing, bang, boom. I have copied everything. All of my stuff starts the way it's supposed to, and all I have to do is fill in all of the things. Okay, you will do that for paragraph 2 and paragraph 3, and then your conclusion. Make sure it's 8 to 10 sentences, and it does not include any first or second person pronouns. Some helpful tips for your essay: make sure you write all your verbs should be in present tense. You're reading it today, so all of the things are happening today. Do not use past tense verbs when you are writing about or analyzing the story. The only time a past tense verb can come into play is when you give a direct quote from the text. Think about how and why the character makes the choices they do, not necessarily what they do. I already know what they do because I've read this story, so I need you to analyze the text and connect it to the theme for your analysis. Every body paragraph should have at least one quote from the text with matching in-text citations. For the body paragraph, that should be the author's last name, which is Murakami. Your other citation, which is in the introduction here, should be The Desk of Murakami. Now, that's going to be because it matches your works cited page. You need to make sure that all of your citations match the first entry of your works cited page. That's very important. Otherwise, you will get an automatic 50 on your paper. So make sure that you have followed the directions on the how to write document. Also, please do not use in conclusion in your paper anywhere or anything that looks like in conclusion. In summary, all of those things, we are college writers. We are not in 8th grade anymore. I don't need in conclusion in your conclusion, okay? So, if you have questions about your essay, please let me know. I hope this video was helpful and it was easy for you to understand and follow. If it's not, you guys, please reach out to me. Again, we can meet or Zoom anytime you need to.